Here we go, here we go, here we go. All right, let me just fix my screen real fast. Get this in the right position so I can see myself. There we go. All right. What's going on? Welcome to the Share the Knowledge podcast / live stream. The weekly Q&A session where we can talk shop. You can ask me any DJ-related questions. I'm your host, DJ TLM, broadcasting live from Amsterdam. T-Babs, I see you. Philip Tan is here. What's going on? YouTube and Twitch are in the building. Salute to all my people tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, and X, Twitter, that is. I decided to leave Mixcloud, out of the streams for now, the Q&A streams. For the simple fact that the Q&A is all about the chat and the questions, and I cannot see Mixcloud in my Restream chat app. I can see the rest, can't see Mixcloud. There's not a lot of engagement there anyway, so I'll save Mixcloud for the mix sessions, and for the Q&A, it's going to be YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook. And I mean, I'll leave Twitter open for now, X open for now, even though I can't see that one, so I might have to actually cut that one off as well. But we're here. Mixmaster G, een goedenavond. DJ Mac, tuning in from Venice, Italy. Yes, I remember. Most definitely met you there in Italy. Man, that's a couple of years ago already. But for sure, I remember. That was the year we were on a family road trip. Took a car, went through Germany, Switzerland, all through the mountains, all the way up to Italy. That was a great time. So welcome, y'all. Mixmaster G. For those who don't know, make sure you tune into Mixmaster G every Tuesday. So there's basically, you can catch some DJ-related content in the live stream sphere every day of the week. Weekdays, that is. I'm here on Monday. You have Mixmaster G on Tuesday. You have Tweak Music Tips on Wednesday. Cleveland Terry on Thursday, and Tweak Music Tips on Friday. So yeah, man, we here. The knowledge is being shared, and I love it. DJ Loke, what's going on? What scratching advice do you have for us DJs that make chopped and screwed on the songs are super slow? Ooh. So let me make sure I understand. Are you asking for advice on how to do the scratch sounding effects they use with chopped and screwed music? Because I do not have a lot of knowledge on the making of chopped and screwed. I know what it is. I've listened to it, but I haven't seen the process of how it's made. If the question is, how do you scratch on that tempo? That's a different question. So maybe that's what you're talking about. And yes, it is super slow. And for people who are not that familiar with scratching, a slower tempo is very tricky and can be more difficult for scratching compared to a beat that's more up-tempo. Let me put it like this. I prefer to keep it, quote-unquote, easier, to have a beat that's somewhere between, let's say, 90 BPM up to like 105, 10, 15. I like that range. But when you get to the slower tempo, especially if you take like more modern type style hip hop beats or chopped and screwed, where we're dealing with a much slower tempo, it's tricky. If I'm doing a 90 BPM and I'm doing just a baby scratch, just a back and forth, it can already sound funky. If the tempo is very slow and you're doing the slow back and forth, that's not really creating a lot of energy. What you see a lot of DJs who are more experienced with the slower beats do is they'll either go for double time. Same thing with rappers. Like if a beat gets very slow, either like a lot of new rappers, they just rap really slow because, but they don't have the skill to do much else. Or if you have the more talented vocalists out there, rappers out there, they might not go slow. They might go double time, so faster. You can do the same thing with the scratches. A lot of times, though, when you see DJs scratch over those slow tempos, they're using more advanced techniques. So you'll get a lot more flares and stuff like that in there to create either that double time or more energy. So that's a more advanced level of scratching. With the basic scratches over a slow beat, you can do it, but it's probably not going to be as exciting. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't have to be exciting. If it's just funky little scratches to add on, then a simple zigga zigga might be all you need. Depending on what else you use to scratch with. Are you scratching with a vocal that you can then release? Then a couple of quick zick, 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 and let it go can be enough. Add a little echo to it. Let's see, Loke. So how to scratch slower, make it sound right. When I use regular tempo, it sounds off. Yeah, I mean, you have to go along with the tempo of the music you're scratching to. Sometimes when I show people how to do a basic scratch without music, they get it. They do it in a tempo. Let's say the baby scratch, they're moving back and forth. Then you add a beat, and now they're still moving back and forth in that same tempo, and they're not adjusting to the beat. Like, no. You have to scratch on beat now. So if you have a very slow tempo, your scratches are going to be very slow, or you have to double them. So double time, do twice as many movements within that segment, right? So it all depends on your level of scratching. Just as a question, because I truly have no idea. I'm trying to think of how fast it would be. Do you have a BPM when it comes to chopped and screwed? What range are we in? How slow is it exactly? If you can let me know that would be much appreciated. Edward, what's up? What's up? And Edward with the question as well. Do you think with the tools you have nowadays with Serato that you use all of them to your advantage, or do you have things you should use but don't? Which are these? Do others use this enough? All right, that's a good question. Funny thing is, I love new tech. I love new technological developments for DJs, for production, you name it. But when it comes to my DJ style, I don't use a lot of the bells and whistles that are available. That's just a thing. Let me just click this real quick. Sorry. And open this a little bit more. Yes. I need to make sure I get the full frame here. Otherwise, I don't know if everything is coming through correctly. Sorry. Okay. I'm a very basic DJ when it comes to how I utilize the things that are available to me. The main reason for that is that I don't plan my sets. So everything happens on the fly. And when you're DJing on the fly, you don't spend a ton of time on using all sorts of effects and loops, you name it. Real quick in between, 6, I don't think I shouted you out. I saw you. So my go-to effects and features I use on my equipment, when it comes to effects, I basically only use the echo. I know, it's crazy. That's what I use. And the high pass, low pass filter. I use my EQ section. And when it comes to the other features, of course, hot cues are my main. They get the most usage. I use hot cues all the time. Loops on occasion. Sometimes I'll have music where I have it properly prepped, so I listened to it before, made a couple of loops, save those. Most times when I'm playing live, I'm hitting that auto loop, and I hope that the track is the grid is correct. Otherwise, the auto loop won't sound great. But auto loop sometimes, and of course the stems. I use the stems a lot right now. But things like echo and an auto loop and stems and your hot cues, those are things you can easily use on the fly. There's a ton of other effects available to you that are just not that interesting for me while I'm mixing. When I'm mixing, DJing, I'm spending my time thinking of which track to play, getting that track. Now, beat matching, that's a quick process for me. Then I want to mix it in, and then I'm playing around with it. Might double, might do little scratching. I prefer to have fun with the actual music, play with it, and then I have to get the next track and get ready to mix it in. On top of that, with hip hop and R&B, your transitions are shorter. Like most of the times you have an 8-bar hook, an 8-bar chorus that you're dealing with. That's your time for the mix. It's not like certain genres where you can take two tracks, play them together for like 16, 32 bars, you name it. Now, of course, I could do the same thing now by using stems and just turning the vocal off and let two things play together longer, but most of the times I don't. If you have longer transitions, that's going to open the door to say like, hey, I'm going to spend my time to properly mix these two, not just EQ them. Maybe I'll bring in a little flanger. Maybe I'll use one of the other effects that are available on most software or hardware. But for me, it's a more basic process. So I don't know if I could name something that I don't think DJs are utilizing enough. And the sampler, of course, I use that, but only during my live streams when I have like the Crates Radio jingles, stuff like that. I hardly ever use samples when I'm out playing live in clubs. You won't hear air horns or a ton of like sample sounds or like my own jingles when I'm DJing live. I can't recall when that happened. I've done it once or twice, but that's not really my thing. So no, I can't think of anything in particular. But there are a lot of tools, and if you prepare your sets, if you are someone who preps your sets in advance, then you should most definitely make sure you do your homework when it comes to the gear you use. What are my options? What do I have to do in advance? Should I make special edits? Okay, make sure I set cue points in certain points to do some cue drumming, some hot cue drumming, and all the saved loops, and go through all the different effects you can use, add extra sounds for build-ups, whatever. There's a ton of stuff you can do, but for my style of DJing, that just hardly ever happens. Loc, got you. So 60-ish, max 90. Yeah, like 90, that tempo is fine for me, but when you get to, and even with 80, it's doable, but once you go below that and you get to that like that 70 type range, and I play that sometimes, and sometimes during my live streams, I try to scratch over that. And either I do a super basic, simple pattern, which doesn't sound exciting to me while I'm doing it, or I'm trying to go double time, which is a lot more difficult for me because I haven't practiced it enough. So practice, once again, is the key factor here. Jesus in the pineal gland says, does it really take 10,000 hours of beat juggling and scratching to get proficient? That depends on your definition of proficient. And I mean, let's be honest, the 10,000 hours thing, honestly, I don't know how real it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you're going to be proficient. And I would use the definition proficient as being that you know how to do everything. You have mastered the fundamentals. And beyond that, you're very capable at doing stuff. Now, beat juggling there are levels to this. And I have no idea how many hours I've spent on my turntablism skills. So scratching, juggling, you name it. It's been a lot of hours. But I know that I'm nowhere near the level of like the true turntablist gurus we have out there. And is it because they spent so much more time doing it? Most likely. Have they spent much more than 10,000 hours? For sure. So proficient, I'm sure if you practice beat juggling and scratching for 10,000 hours, you're going to be good enough to do all sorts of juggles and scratching. I just don't know to which degree. That also depends on how talented you are. Do you have the right rhythmic sense that is needed for juggling and scratching to take it to certain levels? But I did not time myself, and I would be interested to know how much time the absolute masters spent before they felt they were at that level. Jers Mike, shout out to you. Good day, good day. And Jimmy Battle wants to know, do you have your own DJ full system? And I would love to learn how to scratch your face. My question to you is, if you're a cool place, do you have moral speakers? Whoa, Jimmy, I lost you halfway through that long sentence. Quick answer is no, I do not have my own full system. I have DJ gear, but I don't have speakers, anything like that. I'm not a mobile DJ, so no. I have done gigs where equipment was needed, and there's a certain gig that I do for a company, and whenever I do that gig for them, I take care of everything. So I make sure all of the equipment is there, and I just rent that equipment, speakers, you name it. But I don't have stuff like that. Raul Hernandez, shout out to you. Vinyl Touch was good. And let me scroll for a sec. Awesome stuff. Feels somewhat same, but since I'm a tech guy, I like to experiment. No need to overuse things which I don't need. Yes, for sure. Now, when it comes to like overuse, I do remember, especially when certain things were new, overuse was definitely a thing. Not for me, but with certain DJs. I mean, we probably all remember when the air horn became like a popular thing and people started to overuse that. When the Pioneer CDJs came out with their loop and you could shorten that loop, and you would shorten it more and more until it like became a tone. Certain DJs started to do that every single time. Yes, it's too much. I've heard DJs who use the echo effect on every transition, and that's too much. So that can happen as well. But yeah, I mean, so with me, it's kind of a dual thing. Like, I love tech, but sometimes I'm also like, if you give me a piece of gear, I won't check the manual. And if I can get it to work, then cool. I'm good with it until you find out that there's more features you didn't even know of because you didn't check the manual. So nowadays, I do try to spend a little bit more time to make sure I understand how stuff works. I make sure I look at Mojack's reviews when new gear comes out, because I know he's going to talk about more features than I probably saw were even available on the device. So yes. Okay. Why is my cam zooming in and out like that? Let me see what my cam is up to for a sec. Hold up. What are you doing, buddy? Why are we zooming in and out? Oh, got you. I'm using the Insta360 link. I love it. It's a webcam. And for the Q&As, I don't want to have to change my other gear, so I can leave the cameras for the DJ live streams where they are. So I have this webcam. That's all it is. Simple webcam. It's not that simple. It's a webcam on a gimbal, but it has a face tracking feature, and I guess I left that on. I could all of a sudden see that it was like zooming in and out. Not needed right now. Okay, back to the questions. Philip Tan says, I haven't seen a DJ do a slicer routine for a while now. Slicer routine. Why does it ring a bell, but I don't know what a slicer routine is? Philip, please explain. I'm trying to think what's the slicer? Let me know in the chat. And Chaotic Entertainment with the Ruckus. Shout out to you. Finally opened up my A9. Love it. Some nice improvements over the 900 Nexus 2. I have not had a lot of time with the A9. I had a gig with Brainpower like a month or two ago, and they had the A9. So my first time actually seeing and using that mixer was live on stage. And this was one of those gigs where you're playing at like a festival and there's not really changeover time. So there was a DJ behind the set, and I had to just walk on stage, plug my flash drive in one of the CDJs, and the DJ would play the last track, and that's when our show started. So my first time seeing the A9 was like, okay, where is everything? Cool, good to go. But I did not have a chance to like fully see the main differences, you name it. But this is why it's so important that you at least know what to look for on a piece of gear. In this case, it was pretty easy. It has the Pioneer layout, so I didn't have to like really look a long time to find stuff. It's not like the Opus Quad where they moved a ton of the features that are normally on the hardware onto that touchscreen. That was a little bit of a trip when I was looking for certain normal knobs and buttons, and you're like, okay, where is it? Turns out it's on the touchscreen. With that A9, it seemed to look a lot like a 900 Nexus, but a little bit different. So making sure you know what features you need for mixing and how to recognize those on a piece of gear, that's like half of the battle right there. So if I have a piece of gear that I never used before, let's say a controller or just some players that I've never used before in a mixer, okay, I need to know the channel faders, EQ, crossfader settings. On the player parts, of course, play, where's the tempo change, where's the browse. If I have that figured out, then I can actually start mixing. And then maybe I want to see, okay, where's the effects section and how do you trigger effects, you name it. Are there cue points? But you need to be able to find the basic. But with that A9, that was pretty simple. What's the future of DJing? Jay, the only one, says. I don't know. I mean, it's cool to see. We've had some developments in the in recent times that have helped out and changed stuff. If you look over the last like whatever 15 years, maybe let's say we start with like the CDJ and CDJ type players. That was a major step. DVS was a major step with Final Scratch and then later on Serato, Tractor Scratch, you name it. And you had a couple of those steps. I would say Phase is also one of those moments. And the stems, when I think Algorithm DJ came out with them like a couple of years ago, the stems are something totally different. Then, of course, we can get into like the tech part where gear has evolved as well. So it opens the door for more possibilities, but I cannot look into the future. And in what sense? Are we talking about just when you say the future of DJing, are you talking about, do you expect people to start DJing in totally different ways? Well, the technological developments will have an influence on that. Like, just look at stems. I can see the way I mix has changed already due to stems. Not my style, but just the fact that I can make things a lot cleaner during transitions by being able to turn stuff off and turn stuff on. That's crazy. When we had to depend on EQ to make two things sound good together. And now all of a sudden you can just say, okay, I'm going to make this transition and I'll take those drums out. Like if you have a track that still sounds good when you activate like the stems, that's a great thing. You're going to have a lot more people doing mashups on the fly. That's a little bit of a change. But beyond that, I don't know. We could look in all sorts of directions. So the streaming services got introduced at a certain point, which is also, I think, a pretty big thing. We might end up in the future going into clubs and not even having to bring anything. There's just the main computer in every club, and they might have a couple of different sets, maybe a controller, maybe something else, but you just log in and then you have access to your music that you have in the cloud and the streaming services, and bam, you can go. Stuff like that. That could happen. Some people feel that AI might take over and DJs might be out of a job. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. So I don't know. It's a pretty broad question, and I don't think anyone can properly answer that. Sam, what's going on, Sam? Great content. What are your thoughts on the Rev 5 as far as the jog wheels? Does it have professional enough feel? Does it feel more premium than the Flex 6 SRT versus Rev 5? Which do you prefer? So SRT, we're talking about the DDJ 1000 SRT, I have to assume. So the jog wheels on the Rev 5 felt fine to me. They are very comparable to the jog wheels on CDJ 2000 Nexus 2. That's what I would compare them to. Same size, same type of feel. I think they're the same type of mechanical jogs. I mean, they felt pretty much the same. And that's pretty good. It's not CDJ 3000 jog wheel level because those are on a different level. Does it feel more premium than the Flex 6? That's a little bit hard for me to remember. I would have to think yes. Thinking back, but the Flex 6, I used that like two years ago or maybe longer. I had it here for like a couple of days. I did some scratching with it. Never did full sets with it as far as I remember. So I didn't have a chance to really try that out. Now the 1000 and 1000 SRT, they felt great. Yes, I think it's probably very comparable to what was on the DDJ 1000 because those were also the same size as the Nexus 2, CDJ 2000 Nexus 2. I think this is probably very comparable. Have you ever tried using Numark Pro Gold? Have you ever tried that scratch on it? How you doing, Jimmy Battle? No, I have not used Numark gear in quite some time. There are a couple of pieces that I wanted to test. Was supposed to get them to test them. That never happened. So I do not have any experience with any of the Numark stuff that came out in the last like bunch of years. For me, my latest Numark piece of gear is my NS7 that I still have, and after that I was lucky enough to be able to play and try the Mark II and 3. Have not tried the other stuff. Is the A9 meant to be used with the CDJs? Well, it's not meant to be used, but in a lot of the club settings you will most likely find a set of CDJs and the A9 the same way you would find CDJs and the 2000 Nexus 2 900 DJM 900 Nexus 2. This replaces that. So you're going to find a lot of venues where they will have CDJs and the A9. But you could use it with anything, all depending on your style. Look, for a DJ like me, I will always prefer a scratch mixer. It's going to be smaller, so your decks are going to be closer together, which is a good thing. Your real estate around your crossfader is most likely going to be clean and open, so you can, for juggling, move around without touching like a ton of knobs. I've had that happen a bunch of times when I did routines with like a 900. I have the DJM 900 SRT, and I love that as a club mixer. But sometimes if I was going all out with routines, you will bump into like crossfader assigned buttons and stuff like that. So same with the A9. For DJs who like a club mixer, they can use that with anything, with CDJs, with turntables, you name it. But you're going to find it with CDJs a bunch of times for sure. Okay, yeah, so that's Philip Tan, thank you. Because when I saw Slicer, I thought about that pad mode for a second. I just don't remember seeing a lot of routines with that though. And maybe you're right, like because it's underused and it's not being used, like you don't see a lot of clips of DJs doing little routines and using the slicer, that people tend to forget that it exists. And now that you mention it, like I hardly looked at the rest of my pad modes in quite some time. So maybe I need to take another look at the slicer myself. DJ Mac was good. I'm an old school hip hop DJ like you are. I mix in the traditional way, mixing and scratching. Do you think nowadays it's necessary to play a lot of tricks like tone play and so on? No, I don't. I feel you should do that and add that if it's something you like to do and if you feel it could add something to your set. And especially with tone play, man, oh man, I hear still to this day, most of the clips I run into, especially on IG, of DJs doing stuff with tone play, it's almost always out of key. To me, that sounds horrible. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like I've seen a couple of DJs with routines and they were using it and it was in key, which made the whole thing sound amazing. Beyond that, man, no. So no, you don't have to. So for instance, I don't. Everything I do when I'm playing live, I think of on the spot, and I do it because I enjoy doing that. So never feel like you have to add something to adjust. Now, having said that, I do remember at a certain point during my coming up in the club scene, I was playing a lot together with another DJ Monty, salute. We were a DJ team, and our style was a little bit more evolved than what a lot of DJs were doing. We played back to back, but not like you do one record, I do one record. It was very organic. Whoever had the next joint would go first. This is in the vinyl days still. Like, we both had our crates, and whatever was playing, whoever thought of the next track to play the next track. Whoever's playing, the other one's holding the mic and hosting. And we would incorporate a lot more like mixing and just dropping it on the one instead of mixing. So having the crowd sing along, taking that fader out, singing along through the mic, dropping the new track on the one, playing tracks a little bit shorter, not the crazy short stuff you see nowadays, but going for that one verse, one hook, and moving on. And we would go to venues and have DJs play before and after us, older DJs, and man, oh man, they were still playing like the whole song, and their transitions would be, okay, this track is playing, I'm going to add the other track, I'm going to use the up fader to bring it in. It's cool, it's mixing, but when other DJs start to evolve and add more energy to it, you can stay and do it the old way, but then the energy is not going to match. And especially if it becomes more acceptable, people get used to it, you might have to adjust. You don't have to if it's not your thing, but then maybe your style doesn't really fit for certain venues anymore. Now with tone play, that's a different thing. DJs are not getting booked in clubs because they do tone play, you know? But in some cases, you do have to evolve, but that's not what we're talking about with the tricks type of stuff. Leon Billups, salute to you. Happy Labor Day for my U.S. peeps. Joel on Facebook as well, I see you, salute. Amarjeet, I see you. And Jello wants to ask, please do the Michael Jackson routine again using the Rev 7 or the TTS. Yeah, maybe I'll have to do that one of these days. Just do a re-recording. I'm not a big routine guy, but this is a routine I did years ago. And yeah, I'll give that some thought. Philip Tan says, maybe one day we'll have a standalone battle mixer. Prototypes exist, but nothing mainstream yet. Yeah, I've seen that prototype online as well, right? We're talking about a standalone battle mixer in the sense that it is a battle style scratch mixer, but this one had like the computer actually inside, right? So you had a big screen on it. So basically all you would have to do is connect the turntables to it, and you had your entire set. You wouldn't need a laptop anymore. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of smaller screens. Having said that, I've worked with them, and on certain devices, they work great. The XDJ RX3 comes to mind. I love playing with that. I love that screen, the size of that screen. But having it on the mixer, I'm not sure. But yes, it looked cool. I'm not sure, though, especially with battle mixers. DJs who use battle mixers are kind of rough with the mixers. I don't know how long that computer inside that mixer would survive. But if every club would have one, yeah, who knows? Like I said, like I was fantasizing for a second that at a certain point you just walk into a venue and they have everything there and you just log into the cloud to get your music. Maybe they can have like a battle style setup there with one of those mixers with a computer in there. Like you really don't have to bring anything. Then again, if you're in that club scenario, in that club setting, I'd rather have a bigger screen and a normal scratch mixer. Yeah. But I've seen that prototype, and that's a couple of years ago already, right? I haven't heard anything about it since then. Jurors Mike, your personal and professional take on the best mixer to use with the CDJ 3000. That answer is very easy. It depends. Who's asking and what does that person prefer? There's no best. There is absolutely no best. Now, for some people, it will make the most sense to connect this to one of the Pioneer Club mixers because they might want to have more than 2 CDJs. They want to have the whole thing connected through Ethernet, so all the effects and everything is linked up, synced up, BPM'd up, whatever. For me, if I had to think of the ideal setup, including 2 CDJ 3000s, I would have an S11 between there. For a lot of other people, that will not be the best mixer. For me, most definitely, the S11 would be the mixer I would want between those CDJ 3000s. So, man, if you're going to go to that level of having CDJ 3000s, I would say most likely you would want the top tier mixer in whatever class you prefer. Because those CDJ 3000s are ridiculously expensive, super dope, but really expensive. So if you're going to spend money on that, you're not going to have like a little $500 mixer in there that has a crossfader and EQ and maybe 2 effects. You're probably going to have something a little bit more advanced in there as well. So if you're going to go scratch mixers, I would say like an S11 is the top tier there. If you're going to go club mixer, you probably go A9. Some people might want to go V10. To me, that's like spaceship level. Makes no sense for me. Way too big. But if you're into certain ways of mixing, you might want to have something like that in between that gives you a ton of options. So, depends. All right, let's see. Jimmy Battle says, I don't think AI can be able to get that smart enough to do that to be able to take over DJ business. I don't think so. It has to be a new person who has common sense to do it. Don't underestimate AI. That's probably the one thing you should not do is underestimate. Now, in my personal opinion, AI most likely won't be as good as certain DJs because of a certain level of personality that comes into play. At a certain point, if you take some of the best DJs with like a ton of musical knowledge, who are very skilled at reading the crowd, technically they're more than proficient. When they're at that level, the thing that separates them is their personality. Their personality is going to dictate what they're going to play next. If we're just looking at normal mainstream clubs where most people will come in and they're not coming in to hear the incredible skills of the DJ. They came there to have fun, probably have some drinks, look for the same or the opposite sex, but they're looking just play. Bro, it's not going to be that hard to create playlists that will work for a crowd like that. And if you add a camera to that system that monitors the crowd to do the simple type of crowd reading, what's the energy level on the floor? How did the crowd react to the last track? AI can probably come up with the next track to play that will fit faster than we can, especially if you give that computer a nice database filled with music. It'll probably come up with way better tracks to add if we're just looking at what fits the mood, what's in key, BPM, you name it. A computer is going to think faster than us. So don't underestimate AI. We might end up in a situation where every like smaller venue or bar or whatever will have like a computer system. Like a lot do. They'll just have a computer playing music, but now they'll have a computer that plays music, but it can also read the room and make a proper decision on what to play next. So saying that AI is probably not smart enough, I would never say that. But again, personality is still what's going to separate like certain DJs. But I'm not even saying that AI might not get to a level where it can emulate that. It's crazy. Stem pads are basically cleaner, full kill EQs. Stems are basically cleaner, full kill EQs. Some even offer stem EQ replacement. Yeah, to a degree, most definitely, it has that same feel. I understand what you're saying. So I agree. James, what up? Op YouTube. AMW DJ, salute to you. And do you think one day Serato DJ Pro or other DJ softwares will allow the user to use VSTs like instruments or limiter compressor? Within the software, you mean? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. Things can be done. I mean, it's not the same thing, but I remember when Serato had the bridge. I don't know if any of y'all remember that, where Serato had the bridge, which basically linked Serato and Ableton Live. And you could take like an Ableton project and open it in Serato, and you would see like your different clips. And you could also record your mix, but it wouldn't just record the audio, but it would then also record all your fader movements. And you could even change those fader movements after recording. So that was pretty damn advanced. So, of course, if they wanted to, they could most likely make a feature where you could add, like, the same way you can add, like, effect packs, that you could add, like, certain VSTs and have, like, a limiter over your master or some type of other effects. Maybe we'll get to a point, or VST instrument that you can play with your pads. I'm sure it's possible. I do think they're also keeping in mind that everything they add might tax your system more, and they don't want to run into an issue where their DJ software basically requires the most powerful computer to run, because that's not good for business. People are already having issues with stems if their computer is not up to par. So adding more stuff like that, yeah, but it's definitely possible. The reason why I ask these questions, because I'm a Christian DJ. I'm trying to transition to new equipment. I feel more comfortable, and Numark Pro and Prima has more of my skin. I'm not good at big controllers. It's not very funny what I need to DJ. I really appreciate you doing this, what you're doing. Like I said, I'm a Christian DJ, trying to learn as much. Well, never feel the need that you have to buy specific gear. So if a certain piece of gear works for you, and it allows you to play the way you want to play, in most situations, that gear is good enough. So don't ever feel because you see all these videos of these newer, bigger controllers with more features that it is something you need. Like I said, I'm a pretty basic DJ when I play. I don't need a ton of the features that are available on the gear. If I had to make my own mixer, it wouldn't have half the features that are on there now. I would just pick the ones I use. So if this is working for you and it allows you to do everything you want to do, then you're good to go. At a certain point, you might run into a scenario where you just feel like, I wish I could do whatever, X or Z, something that comes to mind and you can't do it with your gear. That's the time to look around like, okay, are there other controllers available that will allow me to do that thing that I want to do, right? Or you see all of these clips of DJs doing something, and you're like, damn, that sounds cool. How are they doing that? Okay, it's a feature on that controller. My controller can't do that. I really want to add that feature. Maybe it's time to upgrade. That's how you should approach it. Because and I've seen this comment recently when I did a couple of videos in a row. Like Pioneer came out with, they had their rollout for the Cross 12 and the Rev 5 like 1 week after the other. And someone came into the comments when I did the Rev 5 video, I think, and not attacking me, but they were really like, yo, who buys a new controller every month? I'm like, well, it's not as if whenever a new controller comes out, everyone buys it. But somehow that person felt that way, and I've seen that sentiment before, that they think that every time a brand launches a new product that they expect everyone to go buy that. No, they're just upgrading and coming out with newer versions of what they had before, and sometimes entirely new models. And there's always people looking to buy their first piece of gear, and there's always people out there that at this very point right now want to upgrade their gear. So there's always going to be an audience for that new gear. But I digress. Tier Namir had a question. I'm on the market for turntables. I currently have the Rain 12. They're great with the BPM matching, but I find myself mixing on different turntables with needles. What turntables would you recommend for a reasonable price? I don't have a specific turntable in mind. And what is a reasonable price? I think that's very important. So what price range are we talking about? Let's start there. Vinyl Touch wants to know, what would you say is your identifying style in DJing? How did you go about developing that, and what would you recommend for upcoming DJs for developing an identifying style? Well, here's the thing for me. This just happened organically. I fell in love with this thing we call DJing, and in my case, DJing / turntablism. This is what I love doing. And when I started to learn how to DJ, which is something I had to teach myself, I was practicing mixing and I was practicing scratching. Love doing it. And I think I just realized pretty early on that I loved incorporating turntablism, but I understood that turntablism routines and stuff like that are not meant for the dance floor. So if I had to identify my style, I mean, at heart, I'm a hip hop DJ. No matter what type of music I play it in a hip hop style. That's my foundation. So I'm a hip hop DJ. But when you identify my style, if you hear me play, if I'm playing hip hop, R&B, UK garage, whatever I'm playing, I'm always adding a subtle amount of turntablism to my sets. I just like to play with the music. And that's not something I ever thought about. Like, hey, I want to be a DJ who plays in clubs but adds a bit of turntablism. No, I love scratching. I love doing a quick little double. Love that stuff. But I understand that if I'm in a club scenario, or even if you watch my live streams, like in my live streams, I might take a little bit extra time to do some scratches. But for the most, it's about the music being played. You're playing the music, and I love playing music and having fun with it. That's why I could never see myself as a DJ who just like, okay, the BPM is matched up. I now wait for the transition point. And in the meantime, I'll do stuff with my hands or wave at crowds or do whatever. No disrespect to DJs who play like that. It's just something I could never do, because why would I want to stand there and wave or just fake like I'm doing stuff? And I just triggered something. I was not going to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it in a second. Because last week I was accused of being one of those DJs who fake touches knobs. So I was going to be like, nah, I'm going to let that one slide. I already explained to that person in a comment what it was. But now that I said it out loud, I just triggered myself, so I'm going to talk about that. But yeah, no disrespect to DJs who play that way, even though the fake stuff looks stupid to me. But I would rather spend that time to, okay, I mixed in the new track. Now let me quickly hit that instant double and double it for a couple of bars. And then I let it play or do a little scratching. And mind you, I was doing this in the vinyl days as well. I would mix in a new track, and if I would have any time, I would grab my second copy, because I had mostly every track I had double, and quickly do something with it. So this is just the style came to me. This is just, okay, I was practicing all the time, playing all the time, and I just never thought of not having fun while I'm playing. And for me, that is part of the fun, adding the little scratches, you name it. So adding a little bit of turntablism to the club style, foundationally a hip-hop DJ. But I could not say that I would ever gave that any thought of like, okay, this is the style I want to develop. Yeah. All right. Edward says Serato extra wide screen. Yeah, man. I know. I saw that picture. I never saw Serato on a screen that wide before, as on Edward's setup. Mad wide. All right. So I'm going to scroll through, and then I'll get back to that one comment I received. What about using a Raspberry Pi with Serato DJ and connected to a screen and controller? It will make it a kind of standalone, no? Well, no, because you still always have to bring that. So I understand what you're saying, but you still you still have the Raspberry Pi in the screen. So with that one mixer that we were talking about a little bit earlier, that was like a prototype, the mixer had the computer inside and the screen on top. So it is in one device. And if you connect that device to power and you turn it on, there's your entire system. You just add 2 turntables for the DVS. But yeah, so that will be a little bit different. Let's say Philip Tan says you can do Serato on a Stream Deck or use DJ Pro AI on a phone. Both ultra portable solutions, but you're still connecting an extra device. Yes, thank you. So indeed, that was my idea. As long as you have to connect extra devices, it's not standalone. Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to talk. I was almost going to say something, but I'm not going to announce that yet. You'll see it when it comes out. What's your favorite speakers that you like? I don't have favorite speakers. So if we're talking about speakers in a venue, my knowledge of speakers is just not there. I don't have a lot of knowledge. So I could not say like, oh, I enjoy those speakers when I play at festivals or clubs because those have this or that type of sound. No knowledge at all. The only speakers I'm a little bit familiar with are like studio speakers I use in the studio. And even there, I don't think I have a favorite speaker. I know there's a bunch of speakers out there that I would think I would probably have a lot of fun using, but that wouldn't be for DJing, but for actually just making music. But I don't have those because they're pretty expensive. Used a bunch of different ones, but speakers are just not my expertise. AI isn't as good as everyone thinks it is, especially with logo making. It can't even spell right a lot of times. 6. I mean, yes, I understand, but you do have to be aware of the fact that nowadays everyone and their mother is advertising every app and service they have as being like an AI-powered service. And not all AI is equal. So a lot of times, whatever they use for that service or that piece of software might not be up to par as what other AI can do. So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I've seen examples of like AI where you're like, oh boy. It kind of also depends on the prompts you give it. And I've seen some examples where people are very skilled at making sure they clearly explain to even like ChatGPT what it is they want. And oh boy, the results can be crazy. Learning to program with AI. AI can emulate those DJs you're talking about. Not only that, it can mix the personalities of multiple famous DJs to make a new DJ. I mean, I understand, but that's not always going to work. I mean, at a certain point, you could probably do something that could work, but yes. So I understand what you're saying, but it's just mixing personalities can also, you might end up with something that will totally not work, but I understand. DJ for real, Edmonton in the building. Salute. Edward says, don't underestimate how AI evolves in the next years. Yes, we're at the baby steps level with AI, and it's already pretty crazy. It's getting better and better. Yep. So we'll have to see. DJ Favor was good. Sam says, best way to get your Patreon out there. I've created IG, been part of a DJ membership, and post videos on my Ableton mashups. Do you find the following has to come first? I'm passionate creating them. So I think it's a good thing. Like some people might think like, okay, I first have to develop my skills, become very good, build like a fan base, create like a community, and then I can do X, Y, and Z, create a Patreon, you name it. That could be a good way to go about it. Then again, you might also want to flip that around and have everything in place for when things possibly pop off. I mean, even in my situation right now, I had a certain point a couple of years ago where I was making a ton of content, especially for YouTube. Things were growing, things were going well, doing a lot of different stuff. And then for whatever reasons, that kind of went down. Started making a lot less content, you name it. And I'm now in a process where I'm getting ready to rebuild that and build it up and build it even bigger, which means I have to create expand my fan base again. And that's going to take a ton of work. I have, however, already created my membership site now. I've done like same thing with the merch. I've done merch a couple of times through different ways of doing merch, just to have it out there. Even though I haven't ever sold a lot of merch, just thought it would be cool to have that as well. But in this case, I want to have stuff in place for when things start to catch up again, that it's already there. So DJTLMTV.com is my membership site. And I've used Patreon in the past. I use Fourth Wall now. It kind of does similar things, but I feel they do certain things better. Also, the way they incorporate merch. So it's my merch store, and I can offer memberships, and I can sell digital products. So it's an all-in-one for me. I have that now. I'm not going to start building that once I've got everything else up and running. I want that in place. So right now, the membership level is still very low, but I wasn't expecting that to be popping off like crazy just because I made a membership site. But it's there, it's in place, it works. Now I'm getting back to getting ready to putting out a lot of content and some stuff I can't talk about yet. Hopefully build everything up, connect with people more, get my community back up, and then hopefully get more people over to the membership site. So you want to have that in. I want to have that in place instead of chasing the facts. Like, oh, hey, a lot of people are coming in. Maybe I should now build a new website. You know, I have to send you a message, by the way, because yes, you sent me a lot of your mashups as well, and I haven't really responded to that. But there's a reason for that. I'll send you a message today or tomorrow. And yo, what's going on? Good to see you. And come on, which version of Serato DJ did the bridge? I'm not sure if this was, I think I might be wrong, that when the bridge was added, it was still Serato Scratch Live. I think this was before Serato became Serato DJ, but I'm not entirely sure. For those who might not remember, Serato, when it started out, it had their DVS, and that was Serato Scratch Live. That was their software to emulate your vinyl system, your digital vinyl system. At a certain point, they started to, controllers came out, I think like the Vestax VCI 100 or 300 was one of the first. And Serato wanted to also be able to work with the controllers, and for that, they made Serato Itch. So you had Scratch Live and you had Itch. You used Itch for your controller, so I used that for my NS7, and Scratch Live for the turntables. They merged those two at a certain point and turned into Serato DJ. But the bridge is it's been a while. It's years ago. So I'm not sure. Let's see. Peace up was good. Enya says, yesterday I was invited as a background DJ on a wedding with two different bands outside next to my country. Sorry. Okay. Background DJ sounds, I mean, I kind of understand what you mean, I think. Even though at a wedding, normally like the wedding DJ is pretty present and not background, but I think I understand. Six says, apparently Spotify has an AI DJ on their app now. I think I saw something about, but I haven't looked into it yet. Jogwheel, what's going on? From the Philippines tuning in. And T-Bab says, that's why I'm still rocking my DDJ 1000 SRT. They keep bringing out new gears. Yeah, and I mean, that 1000 is a dope controller. So if there's no need for you to upgrade because you haven't seen specific features you need. And I mean, even like with a 1000, if you want to control stems, you can just MIDI map to have some of the pads do that. Yeah, then you don't need something new. In most cases, it's not need. It's just that people see the shiny new thing and they're like, ooh, I don't have that. That looks cool. But is it actually a lot better than what you have already? In a lot of cases, it just really isn't. DJ For Real says, I paid $700 for Stanton ST150s in the cases, great turntables. That sounds like a good price. I mean, I don't know how much they normally go for, but that sounds like a good price. And Enya says, how often do you refresh your playlists? If that question is for me, playlists? I have no playlists, so I'm not sure what that is. Oh, I think I know what just happened. Sorry, that's not you. Let me see if it's correct. Hold up. Yep. That's one thing I didn't think about. I now understand how my face tracking was activated on the camera. This camera has hand gestures. I just raised my hand and opened my palm. If you do that, you activate the face tracking. Okay. This time I saw it happen. I was talking, and when I talk, I move my hands. And that happened. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Restream, what are we doing? Restream just logged out on me in the middle of the process. I have to assume that my stream is still on. Let me see my Twitch real quick. Am I still here? Okay. Okay. Then I'll just leave my Twitch window open. I just have to have some visible cue to see what I'm doing. Okay. I'm here. Sorry. So no, I do not have playlists. I do not have anything like that. I have music folders, and those music folders should be updated from time to time if you want to add like new music to it. But I don't have playlists. Okay. There's at least one software offering that does allow using VST in the effect chain. Okay. But overall, it's not well adopted yet. Yep. Yeah, but that's what I said. I mean, they can do it. That's for sure. Jump Up wants to know, how's your feelings on stems and do you use it heavy? Jump Off, if you've seen any of my streams in the last couple of months, then you would know the answer is yes, I use them a lot. I use them a lot. I wouldn't say overused, but it's getting pretty close because especially during my live streams, I feel very free to use that time to also experiment. And there's not a ton of things that can go wrong with experimenting with stems, besides the fact that sometimes you use the stems with a track that clearly was mixed in a way that the stems are not, when you take out one of the stems, it clearly affects the rest of the song. That happens sometimes because I don't prep, so I just do everything I do on the spot. And sometimes I would like take out a vocal and all of a sudden the rest of the beat just sounds like total crap. You're like, oh, okay, with this one, it doesn't work. But I love using them. They can just make your transitions cleaner and allow you to do a lot more with like live remixing stuff. And especially for me, like if I'm having fun and I want to scratch the next thing in, and instead of like mixing it in, I can just say like, okay, I'm taking the vocal out, even if it's just during the hook part, take the vocal out and use that time for scratching and then bring it in. It just opens the door. A lot of possibilities. Love using it. With some of the systems, they do still need to improve. Like Pioneer stems just don't sound good at all yet. But over time, they'll probably all get better. And I really, really like using them. We got DJ Bamboo with that follow. I appreciate you. For the people new tuning into this, you'll probably notice like I'm always late responding to your messages in the chat, and that's just because I'm answering questions and then I run behind. Midas K, shout out to you. Appreciate you yesterday. And John wants to know, is Evermix still trading? No idea. DJ Zondon, Rich Dog, I see you. What's the best radio services to stream a mix online? I don't know about radio services to stream your mix online. If you want to stream your mix online, there are a couple of sites. I would say Mixcloud is a good option because your mix is safe there. So Mixcloud is one you could look at. DJ Two Styles, what up? Can you get piano mode on the Rev 7 like the Rev 5? I don't think so. No. Or there have to be some elaborate ways you can MIDI map stuff that I'm not aware of, but I honestly haven't looked into that. But it is a Rev 5 feature, and I think it's exclusive to the Rev 5. And I did not have a time to, well, that's not true. I've had the time to test that. I just haven't tested it because I haven't been interested in doing it. On top of that, the only time I've spent with the Rev 5, and I still have it here, has been during my live streams. And the piano mode was not something I was looking at doing during my live stream, but I will this week actually just connect that 5 and test that piano mode properly. T-Bab says, I'm more of a mobile DJ, but I've been getting lots of people reaching to play at club events lately. What's your advice? If I'm going to play at such events, I've actually hosted a few of my own events, which was successful, but somehow I kept thinking in my head that I'm not a club DJ. I mean, what separates a mobile DJ from a club DJ? I think the mobile DJ gig is more difficult. As a mobile DJ, you're probably spending a lot of time playing at events where the crowd is super, super mixed. Meaning all age brackets, demographics, everything is there. Probably certain rules and regulations you have to abide by, and you have to make sure everything is working. You're bringing all the gear, you name it. A club DJ has to just go to the venue most of the time. Sometimes they bring a bit of gear, but a lot of times you just go to the venue and play at a certain type of themed event. Or at least it's a club that has like, hey, at this club we play this, this, and that. Or, hey, it's a themed event and tonight we're playing this, this, and that. From that perspective, you have a lot less to worry about. Now, I'm not familiar enough with how wedding DJs are supposed to play and how a night is supposed to go. But I feel most mobile DJs would be able to adapt to being club DJs. You might have to go to, not for you specifically, but some mobile DJs might not spend any time in the club, and then it might be a good idea to go to a couple of those club nights to see, like, okay, what's the vibe and how is it going down? But beyond that, no. You, oh yeah, and indeed, like mobile DJs, you are also probably pretty used to the request thing, which in clubs will happen hopefully less. All right, let me get back to the top because I went down the list a little bit too fast. People in here underestimate the power of AI. Really don't understand how powerful it is. You should take a class on programming open AI. I agree 100%. I'm a tech head. Chaotic says, I'm a tech head. So as a DJ, it's a double whammy. I love DJing, but I also love gear. Yep. Hey, and let's be honest. I know a lot of DJs that are like gear heads and tech nerds as well. That's what we do. Not all, but like the ones who are really into it, a lot of times you'll find that they'll also have that side. Edward, go catch your train. See you next time. John Eccles, salute to you. AMW DJ says, any opinions on the Flex 10? Yeah, it's a dope controller. I had fun using it here. Definitely a top tier controller. It takes the place of what the DDJ 1000 was. Biggest difference is that this has like some stem controls and the fact that you can assign your effect to a specific EQ, to a specific stem. So you can, let's say you want to echo, but only on the voice, then you can have an echo only on the voice. Stuff like that's pretty fun. But I liked it a lot. Now, having said that, I'm just such a big fan of the layout of the Rev series that I have more fun with the Rev 5, even though the Flex 10 is a higher tier controller with better build quality, more options, you name it. But for me, because of the type of DJ I am, and I'm not all about the bells and whistles, workflow is the most important thing for me. So I would still prefer a mixer that has like the Flex 5 layout, the Rev 5 layout. But feature-wise, I mean, the Flex 10 is on a higher level for sure. What's your take on learning how to scratch? I've been watching your scratch tutorials and I'm stuck on the tear scratch. I've been DJing over 20 years and never got past the baby scratch. How much should you practice? Because I try and get discouraged. So my first question to you would be, when you say you try, how much time do you practice? That's the starting point. Like, how much time do you actually practice? Not saying you do that, but some people will approach me, especially in the DMs on IG, like, yeah, man, I've been trying this and it's just not working. And then when I ask them, like, okay, how long have you been trying? Like, yeah, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks. You're like, oh, wait a minute. This is not a week's thing. For a lot of people, it's not even going to be like a month thing. This can take time. It also kind of depends on like how gifted you are. Do you have the knack for it? Do you have that rhythmical sense? Do you understand rhythm? These things can help. Some people will put their hand on a platter and you ask them to do a baby scratch on beat and they couldn't make that work to save their life. You can tell, like, okay, there's no feel of rhythm here. You can still teach those people how to do a baby scratch, but it's going to take a ton more time. For other people who have like that rhythmic sense, some things will come a lot faster. I've always said this. I feel lucky that I started with drumming before I got into DJing. I was drumming at 14, started DJing at like 16, and I had no teacher. But the fact I did drumming and I had a teacher for that taught me about the structure and rhythm. And when I started DJing, certain things just made sense to me. I understood beat matching before I knew what beat matching was. I also kind of understood the structure because it made sense for me to start that song there. And that would be the end of a phrase. Even though I had no knowledge of the terminology like beats, bars, and phrases, but I had that feel for it. So how much feel do you have for it? And then how much time are you practicing? And in some cases, you might get stuck at a certain point just because you're overlooking something simple. So you might be doing something wrong and you just need someone to see it to tell you like, oh, okay, look, it's not working because you're actually, stupid example, but you're holding your hand wrong. Whatever the case may be, you might be doing something that's holding you back without even knowing it. So for some people, it could be very valuable to have someone see you do it who has the knowledge so they can just guide you. But it all depends on how much time you're also practicing. There are limits to current AI, but AI can get better. Its main point is learning through training. Yes, many DJs work in IT as well. I know a few already. Grandmaster Flash, yes. Tech Head, okay. Yeah, no, I would not say many DJs work in IT. No. Like, I'm sure they are there, and yes, Grandmaster Flash was definitely a tech head. And I know more DJs, like same with Jazzy Jeff. When I was at his studio, I remember like dude had like everything that was available and loved playing with the new gear. This was like late 90s. But it's not like a lot of DJs are like IT level or anything like that. Let's see. The beer drinking, coke sniffing DJ gets all the press, but the computer nerd / tech head DJs are the majority. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think that's a statement we can make. Or we would have to do some serious research, like a good questionnaire, and have like 50,000 DJs in there to see if that's true. As far as your library in Serato, is it easier to put your songs in folders on your hard drive that have the same layout as your crates? That way you know where your songs are stored, or do you just dump all songs in one folder? and make separate crates. No, for me, I've been doing that since the beginning. I have folders on my computer, and I import those folders into the DJ software. That way, especially back then, if I had to play on different software, I could just grab those same folders, import them there, and then I would already know exactly where to find everything. Is that the only way to do it? No, of course. You can have everything in one folder and make separate crates. I might get to a certain point at one time that I will just have one music folder and just a bunch of smart crates in my software. But for now, this is the way I always start. When I make a new crate, I'm never making it in Serato or any DJ software. I have my like a main music folder open, and I'll open a new folder on a different drive on my computer, and I'm dragging songs in there. And then I'll take that folder and put it into the DJ software. I mean, that's just the way I've been doing it. Not saying it's the better way, but that's the way I've been doing it. Yep. Yeah, so I mean, Vinyl Touch and Jesus in the Pineal Gland. I'm going to leave y'all with that discussion, but I do agree. Like, if I just look around at the DJs I know personally, yeah, I mean, a lot of them like a little bit of like have some love for new tech, even though I wouldn't even say that's the majority, but they're definitely not on a level beyond that. Like, most of them have nothing to do with like IT or really tech nerds like that. Larry K, what's going on? Do you have any recommendation class for online beat making? Ooh, no, I wouldn't say I do. I know there's a bunch of people online that make dope beat videos and also offer like courses, but no, I couldn't say. So maybe someone in the chat has followed a good course and could recommend something. Ruga Dame, salute. Following up on learning the scratch, I see many DJs mention the cut should be the sharpest. Is that a standard, or are there certain scratches that work best less sharp? I don't know. I don't know if there's any scratches that I've done that would work better with a less sharp curve on your crossfader. That being said, for the channel faders, so when I'm using the channel faders for stabs, for instance, I don't want them to open right away. So I don't want those to be at the sharpest. I want them to have a little travel before the sound comes in. That's a personal thing. But like on the crossfader, I'll always want the sharpest setting. That's me. Maybe there are certain DJs out there who've experimented and found that, hey, for a certain scratch, this works better. But I've not seen that yet. Vest, what up? Any thoughts on using external SSDs for your music and DJing off the SSD? Sound check. I mean, I know DJs who do it. And it works. I have seen software sometimes reacting like a little bit slower when it comes to loading a track, but we're talking about a fraction of a second, whatever. It's not a big thing. So yes, you can most definitely do that. I want to have stuff on the computer because I just don't want to have to depend on still an extra device. And especially when you get into that territory where you're maybe using like a newer type of Mac with almost no ports, and having to use like hubs. I prefer to have the least amount of devices connected. So having an external SSD is still an extra device, and at a certain point, you do maybe start to tax that port that you have. If you have have it connected to a mixer and have it connected to two separate players, and maybe you have it connected to like also to phase, and then an external SSD, it can become a little bit much. But I mean, it's definitely possible. What's the best way to update your crates after you've added new songs to your folders? Yeah, great question. I understand, because you would basically have to then like either add those separately, or I mean, I've done this as well. I've also like deleted the crates and imported the folders again, but I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. Hashmile, salute. Let's see. Diplo Shade, salute. And there's a free general course on YouTube of learning production, total music production, uses Reaper. There's no free course I know of that teaches specific types of music production. I mean, I think there's a bunch out there, but like total courses, I'm not sure. But there's a lot of content out there about making beats. So if you're already using a specific DAW or software, just look for that on YouTube, and you might run into some very good tips as well. All right, crazy question. Larry K, we're here for the crazy questions. When I get a gig, I played more than hours, have been paid for, especially when people are dancing. I found it difficult to end the set. Okay, so that's not a crazy question because that's not a question. I'm actually going to have to read it again to catch the question. When I get gig, I played more than hours, have been paid for, especially when people are dancing. I found it difficult to end the set. So if I understand this correctly, you were booked to play a certain time, but the people were having such a great time, you just kept on DJing and you didn't know how to end your set. I think that's what you're saying. So then the question would be how to end your set. That wouldn't be a crazy question. I think it all depends on what time slot you're playing. So I've had DJs who played before me, and to end their set, they did something drastic that would like totally stop the crowd, and then they would play something like funny or slow. Okay, I understand that's how you end your set, but at the end of the day, we're not supposed to bring that energy down that far, because I was not expecting to start from this level. You were here. I was going to start like here, take it there. And for your last track, you decide to take it there. So, or they do something crazy that totally hypes everything over the top when that's not the level where I wanted to start. So it kind of depends. If you're ending the night, it's pretty easy because then you're the last DJ. Then you could do whatever at the end. But that does play a part. To end your set, does that mean the end of the party or just the end of your set? Because you want to take into consideration what the next DJ still has to do. But I can't give you like examples, to be honest. Vess has a question. Your favorite gear released this year? What was released this year? Like with certain pieces of gear, I'm just wondering, no, that's probably last year, year before. Can I call this my favorite gear because I've only used it once? I mean, there's nothing I would like more than to have the Cross 12 back here. That's one thing I know. And preferably two, but I know at the moment, Pioneer here, my Connect only has one. Because I'd love a full set here to play with. But that was fun to play with, even though I had a very short amount of time to play with it. The rest of the gear, like there's a ton of gear that came out that I haven't tested, so it's hard for me to speak on that and say if that would be part of my favorite gear. Damn. So chat, let's drop that in the chat real quick. And yeah, for some people you may have noticed, like the Q&A switched to Monday, and it was my new plan to have that Q&A just for 1 hour, 6 to 7 Amsterdam time. I decided last week when I had to cut it short, also because of a meeting, like I have too much fun doing this. So I'm not saying it's going to be a 2-3 hour Q&A every Monday, but it's definitely not going to be an hour. And that can be pretty obvious because we're already getting close to 90 minutes now. But yeah, this is too much fun. But chat, let's do that real quick. What's your favorite gear that was released this year? Let me know what your favorite gear was. And Philip Tan says, don't go past the venue's closing time. Yes. Like I said, if you have the final slot of the night, it's pretty easy because you can kind of end it the way you want to end it. Because you don't have to think about the next DJ. But if you've been given the signal by the venue, by the promoter or security, like, hey, last minute or last song, Please listen to that. That's very important. Don't feel like, the crowd is so into it, I'm going to play one more tune. That might cost you a possible next gig, because if they say like, hey, we have to close, most likely that venue has rules and regulations they have to keep in mind. I know venues where I played at where the police would always be waiting outside looking at their watch, because everyone had to be outside that club at that certain time. So they made sure that the DJ stopped in time, because they had to get everyone out, because even if they're 1 minute over time, they would get a fine, and you don't want that. One more thing about closing. If you're playing at the end of the night, read the room. If you can feel that there's like, let's say there's a semi-aggressive vibe in the air. Not crazy, but you can feel that something's a little bit off. Maybe there's more dudes there than there are girls there. Maybe you play in a town where a lot of the local people come. And when you have a lot of the locals, a lot of times you can have people there that just don't get along in regular life. And they know each other and they're at the same venue. If you feel that the vibe is even a little bit off, don't end with something that has a lot of aggression and energy in there, because that might be the one thing they needed to pop off. Music won't always save you. I've been in clubs and I've seen shootouts when I was playing the most mellow stuff. It's not as if everything can be saved, but it's pretty obvious that if you play something that has a lot of the aggressive energy in there, it might make people act up a little bit more. In a good way for the most part on that dance floor. But if you already know there's like a little bit of off vibe in the air, for some people, that might be enough that when they get bumped into, they're like, okay, that was it. And then they go for it. So yeah. Cross 12, but my bank account doesn't love it enough. Yeah. So same here. Top Select Visuals, salute. I see you. MC Poison. Which one? MC Poison that I know from here, from back in the days? Or another MC Poison? I know one. Shreyash, I see you. Salute. And Philip Tan, I felt pain in my wallet while watching the Cross 12 release. Yeah, man. And let's see. I had to say I was most excited about the Flex 10, even though I can't find one. Yeah, 6. I know that's been your ongoing pain, right? But you even went as far. You went out and found an SRT, if I remember correctly, right? That is an issue, though. Like new gear coming out and not being available. Yeah, that's too bad. All right, Poison, okay then. Dacht ik al. Nice. But that is just the issue. Like a lot of gear not being available. I don't even know if people are getting the Cross 12. Don't know. Oh, yeah. So let me circle back to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. In one of my IG clips that I dropped after my sessions, I think it was a Sunday sessions video, might have been a Certified Bangers video, either one. It was one of the mixed sessions. I always take clips, right? I just go into Premiere, take some clips, post those on IG. Also to promote just the shows I'm doing, but also because, hey, I did it. Some people saw it. Twitch is not going to let me do replay. Mixcloud doesn't do video replay. I have this content. Let me get it out there. Share it. Beat Source reposted one of my clips, and one dude came out with, yeah, it's cool, all this new tech, but I just can't stand all these DJs out here with all this fake knob the button pushing and knob twisting, and basically accusing me of doing that in that video. It was laughable to me, but to a degree, I understand, and that's kind of the issue when you have a lot of people who just see and hear a lot of stuff, but don't actually have enough knowledge. Even though this person, I think, said that he was DJing for quite a long time. If you're not familiar with the new gear and the stuff it does, half of the times you see me press buttons, you're not hearing anything. But that's because I'm not pressing or triggering anything that's going to make sound. In that clip, and I do this all the time, I'm playing freestyle. I might bring in a new track, mix it in, and then I'll hit instant double to have the new track on both decks. A lot of times I have to make sure that my gain, my trim on both is the same. Otherwise, it's going to sound bad. So I'm holding those. A lot of times I'll hold my trim and make like a micro adjustment. So I'm not moving that trim all over the place. I'll mix in a new track and I might just have to adjust it a little bit. So sometimes I'm holding them. For some people, that looks the same as those house DJs that spend a lot of time and you see them like twisting knobs on channels that aren't even active. That's not the same thing. Back to the buttons. There's a lot of buttons on the mixers I'm using or on the Rev 7 or whatever I'm using. If I'm switching pad modes, I'm pressing buttons. You're not going to hear that. I'm switching pad mode to go to the stems. I'm activating or deactivating a stem. That's not always going to be noticeable. Sometimes it is. Then I go back and I go to the other one and I add a sample from the sampler. You could hear that if you notice that I'm triggering that at that time. But I do feel a lot of people, and I can totally understand, might not totally know what is going on with all the different buttons and knobs and features. I'm using the hot cues, I'm using the sampler, I'm using the stems, all from the pad modes. I'm using a knob to browse, I'm using instant doubles, you name it. I'm switching my effect from 1 count to half count before I trigger the toggles. Ton of stuff going on. So it was kind of funny to me, and I just explained that to the person. Unfortunately, the only answer I got back was okay. But yeah, I wasn't going to talk about that until that subject just came up. I was like, wait a minute, that happened last week. So yes, we've all seen these videos with like fake DJs, and you see a DJ playing and it's like a girl behind the set, and then you see that the power is off, stuff like that. Or the example I just gave, you see them on knobs, and then you see that it's a channel where there's no track playing. Or I've seen one where there's a DJ playing and then you hear a transition, but everything's happening on channel 1. So it's just a pre-recorded mix. All of that stuff is out there. I understand. But I also, with those videos, see it a little bit too many times that people automatically say, hey, she's faking it because she was pressing next to the cue on the CDJ instead of hitting that cue. Then they haven't seen enough DJs DJ on CDJ. You know how many DJs do that? They do that because they want to keep rhythm before they actually hit cue or play. I know that's what they need to do it, but they do it. That's not faking it. Original DJ Breeze, no wires in the mixer. Yes, that's another one. Even though I've seen that happen as well with one of my videos way back, and I know the person who said it meant it as a joke. DJ Chucky, I'm talking about you. That's my guy though, but he said it as a joke because he understood, but some people don't. I had a controller, I think that was the SZ2, and I only had a USB cable connected to my laptop because I was recording this little scratch thing I did internally. So there were no cables coming out going to speakers. I had my headphones on. Some people thought that meant that I was faking it. Look, it's not even connected. Yes, it is. There's the power. There's the USB. So some people see these fake DJing videos and then they assume like, hey, in that other video, there weren't any cables. That must mean that this is also fake. So a lot of times people will speak out of place just because they lack the knowledge. That can happen. All right. Not important beyond that. All right. Vess has an offer for me. He wants to get into co-parenting. I adopt one. You adopt. We both have it on even weeks. Even weeks for me, odd weeks. Yep. Yeah, we're talking about cross 12 for people who don't understand. Like, hey, man, I could see that happening, though, that like a bunch of DJs, if they have like a one place where they practice, you just chip in and buy a set together. Favor says, when I add songs to a folder, go to Serato, click the file button, find that folder and drag it into audio on the left. It'll grab those new tracks. Okay, that does work. Cool. Yep. That's good to know. What are your feelings on mixing video clips with Rekordbox? I mean, I like it. I haven't really done it with Rekordbox because I remember when Rekordbox also added like video, it was very taxing on the computer, very hard on the computer. Where, for instance, Serato video is much easier. But I've DJed with video clips before, and it can be fun. When Serato first came out with it, I also tried it in a couple of venues. The only thing I noticed then was that people would spend more time looking at the videos instead of just chilling or watching me. They were looking at the videos, but it can be fun. So yeah, and you can do the same thing with Rekordbox. I just haven't done it with Rekordbox a lot. I've used Serato for it. But mixing videos can be fun. I've done one live stream, and I was thinking about doing it at least once a month. Didn't get around to doing it again, but I'll do a stream with videos again soon. Oh, sir, suggest me the best beginner DJ controller for all purposes. I'm not sure what the all purposes would mean. So when we say all purposes, are we talking about that you want to mix and also do like turntablism stuff, or what are we talking about? Is all purposes that you also needed to do parties where you need to have like at least one or two mics? There's all sorts of things we can be talking about here. I cannot really suggest one best beginner DJ controller because there's a ton of newer entry-level DJ controllers out there that I haven't properly tested yet. So I don't want to say the DDJ 400 again because that was a very good entry-level controller, but it's pretty old. And I mean, it still works. I've used it in recent months, but there are a lot newer controllers out there. Even Hercules has some great entry-level stuff, like the Impulse 300 and others. Newmark normally always has good entry-level controllers. Pioneer's newer entry-level is an option. No, I'm not sure which one I could recommend now. Send me leave a comment on YouTube in the comment section or hit me up on IG, DJ TLM on Instagram. I can't send you a couple of names then. Philip Tan says, I've seen an uptick of short form videos accusing DJs of faking it when they're actually working really hard to make a clean, complex transition in real time. Like you said, most don't understand. Yeah, that's the thing. Like at a certain point, it became more of a thing like, hey, look, I found another one. And then they start posting everything like, hey, look, the CDJ isn't even on. And then it turns out, no, that's just the angle. The sun is shining on that screen, so you can't see it. But you can look at like there's a ring around one of those buttons that has light, and you could tell that it was actually on. But because of you couldn't see the screen, they automatically said like, hey, look, this is fake. So it's become a little bit too easy for people to say that. And most of the time, people who say that just don't know enough. Right. Reactor salute if I didn't do that already. All right, sound check. I have phase and the Q drift is terrible. I calibrate before I start DJing every time, and I have the boost on and double tap feature is off, but the drift is bad when scratching and juggling, so I went back to needles. Been in touch with phase support, no luck. Any ideas? No ideas. And I mean, some people have, I mean, you're the first one I've heard in recent times that still has issues with it, because and I see 6 with a suggestion that might be perfect because I haven't thought about that or I haven't tried that yet. But in recent times, I haven't heard that. They had those issues in the beginning. For most of the people, that was solved. I hardly ever have any type of Q drift issues. And the time I did have it a little bit, I think it was just something in the computer because when I restarted, everything was fine. 6 says, did you calibrate in Serato or in Phase Manager? Usually when that happens, I just calibrate on both. So that could be a great solution. But at least you are calibrating, because I had a gig a couple of months ago and there was a DJ playing before me also using Phase, and he just turned on Serato, put the Phase controllers on and went for it. Like, whoa, oh, you're not even calibrating? Because I use Phase Manager to calibrate every single time. He says he never did it. I'm not going to say it's connected, but he had some terrible issues. Not Q drift issues, but connection issues with phase. Calibrate. Just do it. All right. So phase or 6, that might be a great solution if that works for you. So you calibrate in Phase Manager and in Serato. Okay. And Original Breeze, I was a stubborn old school DJ and frowned upon new things. I learned I had to evolve to keep up with the technology. Best decision I've made. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I never want to say anyone has to do anything. Like, if they're fine playing the way they play, do you? Chances are you might get less gigs. You might not be able to compete with other DJs. All depending on where you end up playing. But there's, in my opinion, coming from the vinyl days, there are so many advantages to embracing technology that make your life easier. And not easier in the sense that I feel it takes any of the actual DJing away from me, but just things that always hindered me. Even with phase, like things that I had to deal with before when I went to venues. Like a lot of times I came to clubs and they had issues with their turntables there. Wiring issues, tone arm issues, you name it. Can I do something that can eliminate that? Phase did that. But even before phase, if we take the turntable issues out, just the fact that I had to drag the vinyl all over and at a certain point had too many gigs where you end up at the gig and then it turns out the crowd is not as you were told the crowd would be. Meaning I have crates full of music that's not really fitting with this crowd. Now being able to have more music because you play digitally is just a great thing. I'm a big fan. Yes, and also being able to loop anything, being able to use cue points, I absolutely love it. Now, every time I do my vinyl sets, it brings me back to reality. Like, okay, this is the way I used to play. Like, no cue points, no loops, nothing like that. I have an incredible time with my vinyl. I love it here in the studio. For my normal gigs, the rest of the gigs, I mean, every time I'm done with the vinyl gig here, I have a ton of vinyl. I have to make sure I get it back in the right place, all of that. I couldn't go through that hassle like a couple of times a week or a month anymore. So I love the new tech. Favor says I picked up Numark Mixstream Pro Go. Seen that one, wanted to test it. Still haven't. Okay. It lasted 4.5 hours, but I wish there was a tilt to the screen. Any glare is a problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think like tilting screens are a must on equipment like that. Yep. What do you think about the landscape of music getting less accessible to Go Pro, at least? Drizzy Dre, let me see that again. What do you think about the landscape of music getting less accessible to Go Pro? Wow. I have no answer for that. In what way? So what do you mean when you say less access to Go Pro? Could you elaborate on that a little bit? I would love that to hopefully be able to give you my my opinion. Larry K says, which Serato subscription is best option to buy? Ooh, no idea. I have not looked at the different options they offer. Any suggestions from the chat are very, very welcome. I have to go look at that tonight. I have no idea which different subscriptions they're offering, honestly. Not a clue. I'm thinking of purchasing the DJM S11, but people are complaining of the quality of the mixer, that some faders are bad and the printing on the mixer is bad. What do you think? Burner, are you sure they were saying that about the S11? Because I've never heard that about the S11. The one, and I have to agree, even though it took a long time for well, it's not mine, but I have it here all the time. S7. The S7 has a quality issue with the channel faders. I would say that's the only quality issue, but there's a quality issue with the channel faders. And after taking a lot of abuse from me for like 2 years, I now on occasion have some issues with the channel fader where if I bring it up, sometimes the audio goes in and out. The volume just lowers and I have to bring the fader down, bring it back up, and then it works basically all the time. It turns out that a lot of people have had that same issue with the channel faders on the S7, but for some it came like after a couple of weeks already or a couple of months. So for me, it took like years, but it is a thing that doesn't happen on an S9 or an S11. Not that I've heard of. I've not heard people complain about the faders on the S11. Anytime I've used it, I absolutely love it. So not sure. Are DJ pools the only source for getting beat grid aligned music? I will gladly pay for a music streaming service that had all the music I enjoyed mixing, but YouTube music isn't supported by Rekordbox. Never really looked into it. And what is your biggest reason for needing all your music to be beat grid aligned? Are you using sync? Because then I can totally understand. Because beyond that, the only time I ran into issues with a track not having the proper grid is when I used auto loop and the grid was off, because then your auto loop is off as well. Beyond that, it hasn't caused me any issues, but I don't use stuff like sync where it's more essential. But I don't know if there's any other sources where you can get beat grid aligned music. So Shreyash for scratching and live mashups. Yeah, I mean, again, hit me with DM on Instagram. I'll try to find you some entry-level models to look at. But, I mean, you can't really go wrong with brands like Pioneer, Numark. Like I said, even the Hercules Impulse 300, even though I'm not sure how entry-level that is. I don't know the price. But basically, they have good entry-level controllers. Can't really go wrong with those brands. Your laptop or desktop may have a weak Wi-Fi signal internally. Therefore, you would have to hardwire the phase and recalibrate that way. Original DJ Breeze. All right. That is also something I've not thought of before. So I don't know how that... But wait, hold up. What does your Wi-Fi in the computer have to do with phase? Because phase is not sending anything to your computer through Wi-Fi. Or am I missing something here? Yeah, maybe I'm missing something here. Vinyl Touch, where do you or did you source your vinyl from? Well, it's more did. I hardly buy vinyl. The last couple of pieces of vinyl I bought, I've been from like secondhand, like just like not dollar bins, but like $5, stuff like that. Before that, here in Amsterdam, there were a couple of different stores, Rhythm Import and Fat Beats, and Fat Beats stopped. So Rhythm Import was the last one standing, basically. We also had a couple of other stores here, but those were my main go-to stores. And any chance I had to go to Beat Street in New York, I would buy a ton there because it was a lot cheaper than in the Netherlands. Those were my main sources. At the moment, I don't have a main source. And Philip Tan says, I've been gigging with the S11, S7, S9 regularly, all great workhorses. Some of the paint around the crossfader may wear down, but they all still work great. Yeah, I mean, because I've heard this sentiment about the S7 more, like this is not a good mixer because of the channel faders. And I have to admit, I did see quite a few people bring up like they had the exact same issue. That's the thing. Everyone that I saw has the exact same issue with the S7, and it is within the channel faders that at a certain point, sooner or later, they have issues that the channel fader has volume fluctuation. And that happens on mine as well. The most noticeable time for me was like a month ago during the Turntable Avengers raid train I was on. And a couple of times I brought that fader up and like half of my volume was gone. I had to bring it down, bring it up again, and then it was okay. But with mine, it took like 2 years of abuse to get to that point. And they do feel, you can feel it. They feel a little bit more flimsy compared to the S9 and S11 channel faders. Wait, okay, so you use HID mode. Why are you in HID mode with phase? Again, I think I'm missing something here. Why would you use HID mode when you're using phase? Okay. Reading. Okay, 6 says he's referring to the S7, and coincidentally, I actually took mine apart last night, desoldering the channel 1 fader, which was also cutting out. So same thing with the volume. Everyone I talk to has the same, that same issue. I haven't heard other issues about the S7. It's all that fader. And it's the channel fader, right? Not the cross fader. I think it's with everyone I've heard and everything I've read, it's all been the channel faders. Okay, Mike Lewis, what up? If you have a gig, which set and setup do you prefer to perform? For me, that's pretty simple. If I'm bringing the gear, I'm bringing that Rev 7. If the gear is there, I would prefer to have a turntable setup, and I will bring phase and put an S11 or S9 or S7 in the middle. My favorite setup is like DVS with turntables with phase, or that Rev 7. That's it. Now, luckily, most of the time I don't have to bring my stuff, and sometimes I'll have to bring a mixer. They'll take care of the turntable. Sometimes they'll have everything. But if I'm playing somewhere and the only option I have is to either play on whatever they have or bring something for myself, I have the travel case now for the Rev 7, so Rev 7. Let's see, another question. Me and my homeboy have encountered issues with live streaming on Facebook. How do you get around that? You don't. I stopped streaming on Facebook a couple of years ago. I use Twitch and I use Mixcloud and Twitter, but there's no following on Twitter. But Twitter, you don't have issues on Twitter. Facebook, there's too many issues, and the issues are copyright related, so you can't really get around that. I mean, the only way you could get around that is to do a live stream with your own music. If you own the rights to your music, you could stream and they're not going to get flagged, nothing, and then you can stream everywhere because it's your music. You own the rights. You can do with it whatever you want to do with it. Beyond that, I've had it happen too many times that I was streaming in a club. I saw people, the engagement, you name it. Went back to mix the next track, looked back at my screen, and all of a sudden Facebook just ended the stream, stuff like that. And no, don't use Facebook anymore. I just don't use it. So Twitch works great during your live stream. The only thing is maybe for the replay, you're going to have issues because they'll mute certain audio if the tracks were flagged. But for the live stream itself, Twitch works great. Mixcloud will always work for your live stream. They just have their deals with the labels, but you won't be able to have a video replay. You can have audio replay, but not video replay. Okay, I can understand that. So the Wi-Fi of your computer could be interfering with the signal. In that way, I understand. Okay, got you. For a second there, I thought it was like phase and your computer connecting through Wi-Fi, because they don't do, but I understand. Yes. If your budget allows it, get the latest Hercules and use that as your entry controller. Yeah, like I mentioned, the Impulse 300. They also have the Impulse 500. I mean, I want to try their T7, but that's not really entry level. But price-wise, they are definitely on point. And I have the Impulse 300, and it's a very capable little controller as well. So again, with any of those brands, you can't really go wrong. like a Hercules or a Newmark or a Pioneer. Yeah. I use sync and I've fallen, let's say, I do use sync and I've fallen out of practice with using my ear to jog a track forward or backward. Initially, I download music off YouTube. Yeah, so if you're using sync, then the grids are more important. I understand. Yep. This is totally not my field because I'm not using it, so I haven't had the need for it. But I don't know if other places offer that. Tried Beatport, but not enough of a wide selection of tracks for me. Okay. And on my Serato, I have to choose Wi-Fi for them to work. If not, I would have to use the RCA from the S9 to the phase charging port. After I did that, I hadn't any more problems. Oh, okay. So, sorry, I understand the wireless mode. Otherwise, it didn't work. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I did that for a while when Phase introduced like the wireless mode. I still connected my RCA just in case. I haven't done that in quite a while now. It seems to be working fine. When I did have an issue with something during a tour last year, I remember I did pull out the RCAs and it worked for me then. Discogs is good vinyl records. Or Bandcamp, Smooth J says. And for me, the reason why I'm just not into buying a lot of vinyl is because I just don't have the resources to do that now. And vinyl is crazy expensive. Yeah, Philip, just keep an eye on that S7. If it happens, you won't be the first. But again, for some people, it happened in weeks and months. And for me, it took like a couple of years of like bringing that thing, touring with that thing before I started to notice it. Bernically says, I'm asking because this Pioneer mixer cost over $2,000, so quality should be a priority for Pioneer. Yeah, quality and price doesn't always match with these brands. But like my personal experience with that S11 was great. Like also audio quality wise, it was good. Build quality, love it. I haven't had issues, and I haven't heard many people, or I haven't heard people explain issues. Not as if we're talking about the S7, where you can clearly see like, okay, there's a portion of the people who have that mixer who have had the same thing with the faders. Haven't heard anything like that from the S11. That's still on my wish list. It's mixer wise, that is still at the top of my wish list. And no, the S7 is not 2000. 1800. I thought it was even cheaper because when the S7 came out, that was one of the main advantages. It was way cheaper than the S9, for instance, even though it basically offered you better features. Now I can see it here now. I see one here already for oh wow, those are two different prices. Hold up. I'm looking at my screen right now and I see one offering for 14 something. So how? So for my so Vest, you know, Buckshop. I see it here, Buckshop, 1429. Then I see Gear for Music, 2050. The S7. That's crazy. I have to check my own video when it came out. I believe it was around that 1500 mark, the S7, or even a little bit cheaper. So the 1429 sounds like, yeah, probably something around that. Shouldn't be around 2000, but the S11 will set you back that 2000, I think. Wow, it's not even showing up here. Are they not selling it here? Is it that hard to get? Let me see. Okay, can't see the price, but yeah, that should be that most likely will be like 2000 or more. Okay. Let's see. Original DJ Breeze, leave Facebook alone. Yep. Yeah, sound check. I was a little bit confused. HID, I was somehow when I hear HID, I see a couple of CDJs being connected to Serato, and you could use them in HID mode, and then with the SE5000 and HID mode. But they call that wireless mode HID as well. Got you. Because that's how I use the phase system as well. All right, couple more. Then I do have to continue with my other work. There you go, Breeze. I clipped my video from Twitch, uploaded it to Facebook. 3 minutes later, got hit with a copyright. Yep. Yeah, and there's just no way around it unless you start to use your own music. Mike Lewis says, what I've done with a Facebook video stream is to be creative with stems. Then you can do a lot of streaming on Facebook. I mean, I'm not going to disagree because you're telling me you're doing it, but you probably have to get very creative and basically play everything with like acapellas from one track and beats from another track. That will be like, for me, not workable because I'm doing it on the fly. So for me, that would be too much of a hassle, and I'm not going to play everything that way. But okay, that is an option. Yeah, Vinyl Touch. Like I love cutting with that up fader. The up fader I use is my right one. You'll never see me do like up fader cuts with my left fader. If I'm doing those cuts, the right hand is on the platter, left hand is on that fader, and that is the one that's causing the issue. So, and that took me quite some time before it started to show that issue, but that is showing that issue. Is MacBook the standard for gigs? No. I've never heard of MacBook letting any DJ down. Yes, it has. But I often hear Windows-based machine gives problems. Look, first off, it will depend on which Windows machine you use. So the specs are important, but you just need to check what software needs which type of specs. I started my digital DJ career with an Asus laptop. Used that for a long time. Basically, never had issues. The only real issue I had is that before I bought a laptop stand, I had 1 gig, and I always had it like flat on the table next to my set, and it overheated, shut off. I was able to turn it back on. Got a laptop stand. Never had issues with that again. Worked great. At a certain point, computers get older. My computer after that was a MacBook. Not MacBook Air, not MacBook Pro, MacBook. And this was a black one. It was my first Apple computer. I didn't even know at that time that was special because the black MacBook was a thing. They're normally not black. That was my first Mac. Worked great. Loved using that. Used it for a long time. After that, I upgraded at a certain point because the computer was just too old and the software was getting better, bigger, more powerful. I got a like secondhand refurbished MacBook Pro. Worked great. Used that for a long time. But at a certain point, it died. Did not have a lot of money to spend. So I bought a Windows laptop. This was a Lenovo that I bought for $700. It had the specs that I needed for the software I used. I've done a ton of gigs with that, and it worked great. The only issue is because it was a cheaper laptop is basically the build quality. Like the hinge to open it, that was messed up. Things started to rattle inside, but it worked great. No issues. Luckily, at a certain point, I was able to afford something else. That was so that laptop just didn't have the power anymore. I borrowed a Microsoft Surface Pro, the first version. Used that for like a year, and it kind of worked. It wasn't really powerful, but it worked until I got my M1 MacBook Air that I'm using now, which is a beast. So I've used Apple and I've used Windows, both, and both have worked absolutely fine. So you do not need a Mac. If you're going to buy any laptop, you want to look at build quality and not just the specs. And that's just it. I've seen plenty of DJs do plenty of great things with Windows. So don't be fooled by that. Now, I prefer my Mac because I prefer just the Apple ecosystem. I'm in it. I have my iPhone. I have my AirPods Pro. I'm not wearing it now, but I have my Apple Watch. I have an iPad Pro. When I'm at home on the Mac Mini, it's just so easy to switch with files and get that around. Even for a gig I was doing with Brainpower, like we had like an educational thing last week. Last minute, while we were already there, we wanted to add like a video intro, but I didn't have that. He sent me the Dropbox link, opened it in WhatsApp on my phone, opened it, exported it straight from the phone through AirDrop, and within seconds it's in my computer. So I love that ecosystem. And the M1 MacBook Air is just a very dope little computer. But man, Windows computers can really get the job done. My studio computer is a Windows computer that I built myself, and that is a beast as well. So don't be fooled by people who say you have to get this or that in order to work. All right. Long answer. Mike Shaw was good. And Six says it also happened for some people like a month after they had it. Yeah, that's what I said. Like with the S7, for some people, it happened quickly, and for others like myself, it took a long time, but it's all that same issue. Das Hog, what up, what up? Yes, I do have a life outside of the Twitch Q&A, so that's why I am going to end it real fast. So I'm going to just scroll down. I'm at the end of the chat, so that's okay. Let's see. Philip Tan says, well, any laptop is capable of crashing. The difference is there are well-made Windows laptops and poorly made Windows laptops, whereas all the Macs are pretty hardy. Yeah, because that's the thing. You don't have like 100 different MacBooks, right? You have your MacBook Air, you have your MacBook Pro, a couple of models. You can go some years back. Build quality wise, they're all at a certain standard, but you can also see that in the price. Like I said, my $700 Lenovo, hey, and it was great. It had, I think it had like a i7 and 16 gigs of RAM, enough storage in there, SSD storage. That was pretty good. But the build quality on that thing, it's like the most plasticky plastic. So especially when you start to tour with that, you'll notice like, okay, that doesn't last as well compared to something like my MacBook Air. But yes, Lenovo is definitely a very reliable brand. It saved me then because I did not have the money for any Apple product. And I've played the biggest stages with that thing. Yeah. Sreyash wants to know, can you stream tomorrow? No. Like I can't. I'm here again on Thursday, but that's not a Q&A. My Q&A is on Monday, and I have a show called Certified Bangers on Thursday. That's going to be energetic hip hop. I have a show on Sunday called Sunday Sessions, which is more on the R&B tip, especially like I did yesterday. That's the tip I'm going to be on with that show. So for the Q&A, I'm here on Monday. And beyond that, I mean, you can always ask me questions on Instagram, and whenever I can answer, I will. That's basically it. If you want to take it beyond that, then we have to get into like consultation, which I do offer. And that's a whole different ballgame. All right. Personally, I think going for what works best for you is key. 100%. Example here in Alberta, Canada, for wireless mics, the Line 6 is a very popular brand, which works perfectly. But I decided to just go on the Shure bandwagon and got the Shure. Yeah, paid the ultimate price at an event, returned it right away. Yeah, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it, right? No, I understand. If it works, it works. Yeah, 6. Exactly. That's the thing. Like X, Twitter. I was using Twitter for the live streams as well, like for quite some time. And you never have issues, but I like hardly have viewers, but you never hear anything about copyright yet. So it's great for that, 100%. And yes, Mixmaster G, put that plug in there for Shreyash. Right here in the chat, you have Mixmaster G. Mixmaster G has a weekly live show, an AMA, where you can ask anything, and he is very hip to the game when it comes to all tech-related questions. So make sure you tune in to Mixmaster G tomorrow if you want more DJ content. Like I said, I'm here on Mondays. Every Monday, I do this Q&A. Mixmaster G is online on Tuesday. On Wednesday, you can go to Twitch and go to Tweak Music Tips. On Thursday, we have Cleveland Terry on YouTube. And on Friday, Tweak Music Tips. So 5 days a week, there's DJ content online. Q&A, educational, sharing the knowledge type of DJ content. Vest says, I got the XMG Pro 15 from XMG. Love it. NVIDIA drivers do mess with things at times, but it can handle streaming and DVS on the same computer. Yes, that is the one brand, and we were heavy in talks about me testing one of their new models. But then I think first the pandemic happened, and then, it never happened. But I've heard good stories about XMG. They have certain computers that are specifically tailored to use for audio and video programs. All right, Milton T, salute, I see you. Everyone in the chat, Earl Whiff, happy Monday. Much love. Thank y'all for being here. I'm back next Monday with this Q&A, so tune in next Monday. Join me on Thursday for my Certified Banger Show. Join me on Sunday for the Sunday Sessions. And if you want to support this platform, the best way to support this platform is to go to DJTLMTV.com and become a member. Yes, you can subscribe on Twitch. That is a thing, but Twitch does take like 70% of that. On DJTLMTV.com, my membership, it actually goes to me. So that's the best way to support this platform. All right. See y'all next time. People in the chat, I appreciate your input. That is what makes this whole thing work. Love it to the fullest. And I'll see y'all next week or this week for my mix streams. Peace.